And finally, and very importantly, is the ability for learning organizations to collect data about successes and failures to evaluate what went wrong, right, and what can be improved. With knowledge being shared, there is no punishment for mistakes, only feedback. Even successes will be met with feedback to constantly understand the details of this process. Now that there is an understanding of why System 4 learning is so effective, it's good to know why the other three levels fall short. System 1 is on the far side of the efficiency on the spectrum. It is incredibly authoritative with centralized decision making and top-down communication. Employee morale and well-being are completely ignored. The only times leadership bothers to interact with staff is to address issues with productivity and or quality. There is no form of recognition or rewards, no matter the excellence of performance, severely hindering motivation of employees to be productive. The system lacks any source of positive reinforcement. The model is bureaucratic and very layered. Bureaucratic characteristics hinder efficiency and are concerned with rules to an obsessive point with no ability to modify policies or procedures. Robbins and Judge state that the bureaucratic model is efficient only as long as employees confront familiar problems with programmed decision to rules. These factors stifle the ability to innovate and punish any outcomes that do not fit the structure. This also creates a negative climate with employees who do not enjoy being at work, have no motivation, have a bad view of the organization itself, and have little to no commitment or loyalty to stay there. This model shows to be highly ineffective because it stifles an organization's ability to keep up with the market, and it squanders the talent of its employees within. Those with high potential not only fail to thrive in these conditions, but also have a high possibility of moving on to another organization, bringing their knowledge, skills, abilities, and ideas elsewhere. System 2 suffers from similar issues, but to a lesser extent. This system moves one spot up towards becoming effective by going closer to System 4. This system is still authoritative, but to a lesser extent. It actually does allow organizational members to provide ideas. It provides rewards and recognition, but only for quality work. Leaders do take time to have positive interactions with the staff. The human capital in the company is not prioritized in any way, yet it's not completely ignored. System 2 is still considered ineffective because, although it is less bureaucratic, it has layers in terms of its process and procedures. The system is more positive than the first because it opens up the concept of participation slightly and adds a small form of recognition, focusing more on the employees than before. It still suffers from layers and the lack of empowerment and learning, all stifling innovation. System 3 finally moves into the positive side of the spectrum and is one step away from System 4. This system finally moves away from being authoritative, but differs from System 4 by not being fully participative. Another attribute that sets System 3 apart from 1 and 2 is that leadership actively seeks the input of organizational members. It also suggests that all members are valuable parts of the organization, both of which make better human capital. This system prioritizes rewarding, which still differs from how System 4 celebrates rewarding. It also values the interactions between managers and staff, but does not go quite as far as to have it as an integral part of the organizational culture. There are clear policies and there are no bureaucratic procedures. System 3 may seem just as good as System 4, and it is effective to a point, but there are small differences that make the variance between 3 and 4. Mostly it is about the fact that System 4 does not just encourage communication and participation, the structure is literally open. System 4 completely breaks down the concept of centralized decision-making and removes the layers of the chain of command. Employees become completely self-sufficient, and leaders are used to empower and coach instead of watch over employees. Managers can use concepts from high-performing systems to aid them in their ability to reach System 4 and gain new role concepts to better themselves, employees, and the organization. High-performing systems are an intervention tool that removes layers and encourages collaboration across the organization. The most important element of this intervention is the leaders. The leaders must be fully engaged in the improvement process and must display positive attitude, enthusiasm, and interpersonal skills. Part of the concept is the assumption that every organization has tremendous value that can only be tapped into in an inclusive and collaborative environment. The role of leader is shifted from the traditional concept of just disciplining and having authority. New leadership roles include empowering the staff to make decisions and enhance ownership of individuals. Areas of opportunity can be examined through the assessment of the current system before implementing a new one. There are many questions that leaders can address to get to know the organization better. The characteristics that are part of the high-performing system and make them useful tools are that teams and individuals know the reason for their daily activities and tasks and have clarity of correlation with organizational goals. High-performing organizations challenge the way things have been, and members truly believe that they are different and show it in their activities. Members of high-performing systems are committed to the organization and show higher productivity through their interest of organizational goals and visions. The members also show innovation from motivation and the ability to risk-take and feel unique. High-performing teams are more cohesive, which also leads to higher productivity through common goals. Teamwork also becomes more effective because the organization values members' contributions. And last, and maybe the most important, is the creation of strong leadership that influences the organizational members to be positive, productive, and empowered. My recommendations for the company to create a high-performing learning organization that strives for System 4 management is to make sure to constantly examine the organization, the climate that works and what doesn't, and metrics to understand what organizational development tools can be used and are needed to become a System 4 business. Also, to actively work towards removing layers of the organization by empowering employees and their participation from any level. Think of the organization as an onion. We need to break down its layers to successfully use its contents to cook and make our dish, or in other words, achieve organizational goals. The company also needs to encourage employees to be self-sufficient, accountable, and assess their own needs. When employees are empowered to take learning into their own hands, they receive ownership over their outcome and become more motivated and skilled while opening up time for supervisors to focus on higher level tasks. And finally, the organization needs to establish relationships between managers and employees. Leaders who strive towards high-performing systems take on a motivational and coaching role that interacts with employees on a new level. They should encourage innovation and risk-taking by rewarding outcomes, whether successful or not, and learning from all results. Thank you.